All right, we're joined by Alex Boylan, creator and host of the College Tour TV show, streaming on Amazon Prime. Alex and the College Tour crew, Rachel, Santiago, Gia, and Kevin are all here this week filming on our campus. Season 16, we're going to be featured, so pretty exciting. But first off, welcome to Valley City State University.
It's good to be here. What a beautiful campus you all have, and our first episode in North Dakota. How cool
First
is that?
episode, that's cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Really cool.
So what
it's
have you
hard to
seen
be
so far?
first here. It's hard to be first in the college tour when we're at season 16, you know? So it's really cool.
Yeah, we're talking over 200 schools, and we're the first in North Dakota.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
15 seasons you've been doing this, probably, about 5 or 6 years, I believe.
Yes.
How did this get started, first off? Take us back to the origins
Take
of
us
the college
back to
tour.
the beginning, yeah, because my background, I'm a travel producer really at heart. So I've spent my career traveling around the world and the country, just telling stories in different capacities, mostly in the travel adventure space. But if you go back, probably 6 years now, probably need to check that math. But anyway, my niece is from Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. Okay. And her mom, my sister, gives her one trip. It's like, I want you to go, that's all they could afford. One trip to go take a look at college campuses. Well, guess where my little niece Isabel wanted to go? Los Angeles, where her Uncle Alex lives. Right? She goes,
Nice.
I want to go to Venice Beach. so anyway, so it's super cool. We have this great, let's call it a week. We have 5 days where we're all kind of parked at my place and just every day going to check out a different school in Southern California.
Okay.
Magical time for me. The place doesn't matter. To me, it's about the time with my niece and my sister, her mom. At the end of that week, she looked up and she was like, I really want to go see some schools in New England where you and Mom grew up, right? And she's like, I want to see some schools in this state and that state. And like any normal young person, high schooler at the time, she
Check out
wanted
their
to
options.
trying to check out her options. And we always say, even with the college tour, there's nothing better than stepping foot on a campus and feeling that energy. But and I will never forget this, it was yesterday, my older sister, her mom is sitting there and she's like, Isabel, we don't have money to go travel around the country. I told you one trip, this is it. If it wasn't for your uncle here, we probably wouldn't be here. So just sat with me for a minute, of just and I don't want to call it an equity. We all wear different backpacks in this world, but Isabel doesn't have the money to go travel around the country, right? And I think if you look at that, that is 95% of the population, right? You can't just go to every single campus they want to. And so I started spending some time with Isabel doing little Zooms once a week. So I was like, why don't we make this an uncle-niece? Try to figure out your vibe and what culture and where do you want to go? Let's try to navigate this. And I was probably 10 minutes into the first Zoom call with my niece being like, I don't know what I'm looking at. And I don't mean this in any negativity towards higher education. It's just the format of what it is. Every institution tells their story in a different way. And so some people have social media. Some people have commercials. We were talking about this earlier. Some people have great websites. Some people don't. So coming from the world of television where we think formats, right? You jump into a show, you might not miss the last 2 episodes, but you know what you're watching. Oh, okay, this is this is a night talk show. We're going to have a guest. We're going to have a stand up for a little bit, or this is CSI. These 4 characters are going to solve this crime. Amazing Race. These 2 individuals are going to try to have these challenges. You understand the format of what you're watching. So if you miss seasons or episodes, you can jump right back in. I think higher education needed that. And that's basically what we did with the college tour. We came in and said, let's create a format, right, where it's real students are telling real stories in this type of way. And and here we are. And I think it worked because we still will say we're a great bridge to figure out where to go check out what campus and get that awareness. But if you go into the actual, and I just did another campus tour with my younger niece, Isabel's younger, and it was interesting as I'm walking around, a little bit of the experience has to do with the personality of the student given the tour and the personality of this other person taking the tour. You can't.
Those ambassadors are very important on campus.
And they are, and they're amazing, but it's just it's a personality thing. It's a hard thing to, you're never going to match it up, right? Yeah. And I think the college tour solves that too, because now if you sit back, even if you've done a college tour, it's now I'm going to see 10 individuals, 10 students and alumni. And I'm going to get a much bigger breadth of the personality and the vibe and the culture of the place. So anyway, that was it. It was just, it was a simple, I make TV shows. Let's make one on higher education. And here we are.
Yeah, I think this is the way you tell it through the students. Watching some of the previous episodes, I appreciate that instead of just the typical, we're going to do a virtual tour, walk around, show you the buildings that a lot of schools went into during COVID. And this really puts a face on the university, which is cool. But your niece, where did she actually choose, even though you didn't get to help her with the show?
I know. Okay, so episode 3 was Arizona State University.
Okay.
Okay. And we tell a story of a young woman there who had a full scholarship via this Starbucks program deal that Starbucks had with Arizona State University. We're just telling the story. At this point in time, I'm telling my niece, Isabel, I'm like, okay, we're not going to meet anymore. There's a television show that's been created for you.
Okay.
Watch the show and figure out where you want to go.
So you got it going before she had to choose.
Yeah, and the reason why it was different back then, now we drop, and we drop in seasons now. Back then, at the early stages, the first couple of seasons, we were dropping by episode.
Oh, as soon as you filmed
so
it.
episode was kind of dropping as it came out. So it was a little bit different than it is now. So yeah, when episodes were done, it's, within a month and a half of us filming, it was like, it's on Amazon. You could always find it before that somewhere else. But anyway, so they were just coming out a little quicker. So Isabel is watching the episode and she's like, hey, I work at Starbucks. And so she looks into it, gets a full ride to Arizona State University from the Starbucks scholarship, and went on to get her master's. She just graduated 6 months ago with her master's from ASU. All from watching the college tour.
That's awesome.
And I'll even take it one step further. Episode 7 was Grand Canyon University, and my nephew, her older brother, was going to a school, was watching the show. It was like, hey, that school resonated with him. Ends up going to school there and graduates from there. So within the first season, I had both a nephew and a niece decide on where they went. So that's when I know, this thing works. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So when you look back, 200 schools, 15 seasons, we're going to be season 16. We're hopeful to get the same type of experiences. But what are you most proud of with what you've created with the show?
I think the equity in the college search process.
Okay.
And I say that just across the board, from both the students, teachers, counselors. I mean, we're in such a blessed position. I love telling stories, and so you can't. What's so great is we just ran into Anna, who will be in the episode before it. It's like these students' stories matter, and we're helping shepherd the next generation. It's important. Go to college. You know what I mean? We need an educated population. This is a magical time. So we want to keep that thriving. So, but I just think it's imagine this one resource, and I'll just talk from a super macro level of, what am I proud of? And what is it? Our whole team. There's a lot of people. It's not me. There's a huge team that makes this entire college tour series run fluidly. We've gotten a lot of emails from parents, and there's one that just stands out. And I mean, this type of email, we've got many of them, where it's like, you brought me closer to my kid. And I think it's hard sometimes when parents and young people, it's like, how do they even get the conversation going about higher education?
Right.
And whereas they just start being like, once a week, we're going to watch an episode. And through that, imagine when in high school, sometimes you don't know what you want. You're not supposed to have it all figured out, and you're learning about majors. You're kind of learning, it's nothing like a 15, 16, 17-year-old learning from a 19, 20, 21-year-old. That's who they're looking up to.
Yeah.
And so when you hear these stories of someone being like, I didn't even know that in engineering, that's what they did. And that looks really cool, and something struck in something of like, oh, that's what I want to go chase now. And I think that is what better part of life is to do something that you love and find that path. And that is the purpose of higher education. That's what every one of these institutions is doing, is shepherding, here, there's never a time in history, again, unless you go back to school, which you can when you're older, be like, here, you got a playground. What do you want to try? What do you want to experience? What class do you want to take? It is this time to figure out what your passions are and what do you want to go chase for the rest of your life? Where else do you get to do that?
Yeah, exactly.
And there's no other place besides a college campus. And so I think that, and so obviously, and I could go through each one of those thinking about it like that, but high school counselors, think about the job of high school counselor. Probably most underappreciated, underpaid. How the heck are they supposed to figure out where 2,000 young people are supposed to go on to higher education? That's a really tough. And by the way, most of their job is just making sure they get through high school and figure out what's going on in their own class. It's a really hard job. And so, we've quickly become, I think there's 60,000 high school counselors in our email newsletter, because you think about what happened. It's we just basically created the library for them to be able to do their jobs better. So I just think the college tour, obviously I'm super passionate about it, but this one problem is it's fixing a lot of problems in a lot of different areas. And I don't think I've never had a more fulfilling job in my life.
Good. Well, we're excited to have you guys on campus. You and I were talking earlier, right? This is your main thing right now. You've done a lot of other TV stuff over the years, but you are former winner of The Amazing Race, Season 2.
That's how I'm able to keep this pace up.
What were you doing before The Amazing Race, though?
Oh, it's a great question. Okay, it's a long background. I'll try to tell it in 2 seconds. But my dad, I grew up on the North Shore of Boston. My dad was a pastor, 4 kids. You kind of got to go get it, kid. Like, you know what I mean? There was nothing able to, just the way I was born, nothing good, bad, or ugly about it, but it was, money was scarce, let's call it, right? So you had to go kind of hustle it. So I was a little hustler, you know, it was just, and, but so I went to, I was gifted in soccer, went to Florida for school. And I chose international business. I like to travel, and I was just like, I didn't have money growing up, so I was like, oh, these people look like they know how to make money. So I chose that. Back in those days, I just chose that. I was like, that sounds like I can make money. And I quickly realized the corporate world wasn't for me, at least the structured corporate jobs that I had as market analyst. And then, I had a weird twist of events in life, and I'm writing about it right now because I think I want young people and anyone in their chapter of life to realize, like, sometimes setbacks and detours are really just getting you aligned with your path that you should be on. That happened to me not too long after college. Like, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, I hate this corporate world. I quit to go back and get my MBA, lost my scholarship. All this stuff was kind of just getting messy and wrong, and that led me down to the island of St. John, where I was kind of just bartending. Anyway, it's a long journey around to all of a sudden get cast on this show, The Amazing Race. This is before reality TV. I didn't know. Survivor was the only thing that was on television. So it wasn't like what it is today. I was like, oh, that looks like I've heard about the opportunity, applied, thought nothing of it, get chosen for the show and win the show. So life dramatically changed. But for me, I always thank God for this moment in my life. Imagine it's 1,000 people hired around the world for The Amazing Race. Okay. You know, imagine it's a scavenger hunt around the world. Yeah. It is a fascinating, like, where the world is the set. It's a really cool show. I'm 23, you know what I mean? Competing on this thing. And I'm looking over at other 23-year-olds and 25-year-olds as producers and PAs and all these different jobs. And I was fascinated. I was like, what are you doing? Because that looks awesome, and I want to do that. It was as simple as that, because, you know, it's really fun to be alive and be a young person today, because you get access to all this, maybe too much information, but you get access. It wasn't like that. To me, what was I exposed to as a kid? Whatever my world was around me. The internet was just not even really out there, right? So I knew the world that I saw in front of me. Now I just saw a different world. I was just like, wait a second, this is cool. And I've been chasing that. I've been chasing that ever since. Been and I think, you know, having a dad as a pastor, I watched him tell stories every single Sunday, right? And so, that was really it.
So being on The Amazing Race, seeing that behind the scenes, that's really what. 100%. That's when you click. I want to do TV.
Right-hand turn in life, being like, it was not a question. It was like, whoop, what is this? This looks awesome. I'm going to go chase that. And
so did you have opportunities right away after being the winner? Or did you really have to work for that?
Great questions. Okay. So, I moved to LA while the show's still airing. Okay. Because I knew, I was like, I don't know what to do, but it sounds like LA, I need to be there, right? Yeah. So I go out there. I had like 2 people's phone numbers. The casting director for CBS, her name's Lynn Spillman, because she had called me. This other gentleman who was an alumni of Jacksonville University. He played soccer as well. Name was Frank Pace. Done a bunch of sitcoms. So I had 2 people's cell phone number. That was it, right? Or phone. I didn't even know a cell phone back then. It could have been their home lines. Anyway, and so I called Lynn. I called both of them. I was like, Lynn, like, I don't care what it is. I just want a job. Like, is there anything I can do? And she's like, you know, I got a good friend of mine. She's casting the show. I don't know if you remember the show Blind Date. I don't know. You remember that? Do. Okay, so that's the first job I've ever had. So she goes, you know, they're looking for like casting associates, like young people to just go around and try to find people. And I was like, oh, cool. She's like, I'll get you a meeting over there. So I get a meeting and I get the job. So my job is it was very unstructured. Like, basically go out and like find people that want to be on this, you know, because reality is just bubbling at the time, right?
Sure. Yep.
Just beginning. And so, and I loved it. Loved every second of it. Loved, like, you know, sitting, like, now I'm watching them like edit the show, and it was just fun being part of it. So that was it. So I'm in Hollywood, hustling, just like anyone else in there. Like, it's not an easy business, right? And I'm just trying to, but I got this job. And then I got really fortunate. And this gentleman becomes my mentor, second father to me, Jerry Smith. But I went to school at Jacksonville University. There was a production company there called Pine Ridge Film and Television. They were doing like hit shows. Like, I don't know if you have to go way back 20 years, but like Great Hotels. It was Samantha Brown. This is like the face of Travel Channel. They're doing like hit shows for Discovery. Multi-Emmy award winning, like, small boutique production company. Jerry loved Jacksonville, Florida. So he was like, I'm not playing the LA, New York game, you know, and he's like, so built this little tiny studio. I don't want to say tiny, but this small boutique production company in Jacksonville, Florida, which is not a mecca for entertainment, right? and I get a call from a producer, and Christy Bolt, I'll never forget it. She's like, "Hey, we're doing the show called Dare USA, and we think you'd be a really good host for that. Are you interested?" And I was like, "Am I interested?" I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And so so naive at the time. Once again, I'm in my young 20s. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm very interested." I got in my car and beelined it to I drove across the country for what I thought was like, "Oh, I'm going to host a show." Like I literally thought that. So now I'm sitting in. And I'm meeting the production company and Jerry, and they're very quick to say, "Alex, like most shows don't go anywhere. Like, thanks for driving out here." But so I was hanging around. Obviously, I have a connection to the city because I went to college there. I have a lot of friends there. But they're like, "We're going to go up. We're going to pitch this Travel Channel. Hopefully it works." So they bring me with them up to Travel Channel, and like we find out within like a couple weeks. They're like, "It's a great idea, but basically, show's not happening."
Okay.
Obviously, I'm so green, I'm so new. I'm like, wait, they don't want the show? Like, it was like, not realizing this is 99% of what happens in the business, right? And I remember sitting there, and I tell young people this all the time. If there's any young students when I speak, I tell this story all the time. I went in to talk to Jerry, who's the owner of this production company, and I literally said to him, I go, "Jerry, what do I need to do to come here every single day? Like I love being here. Like
Sure.
I said, I will sweep the floors for free and bartend at night if it means I can come here every day." I literally used those words. That's exactly what I said. He kind of leaned back and he's like, "You're gonna sweep my floors?" I was like, "Yes, I will, sir." And he's like, and he gave me this job at selling stock footage to news stations. I got the job for you. It was a commission only, back of the bus office with like, a fax machine, a phone, a computer from like 1985, and a book of all the news stations being like, "I got this catalog of stuff, go sell it to them," right?
Cold call?
Cold call, old school, right? Which I think is great skills to learn in life. And so, yeah, that was my job. And I didn't care. I was so excited, even though I had nothing to do creatively. I was, wasn't doing anything of producing. I got to come to Pirates Film and Television every day. And that was honestly, as a young kid, I was like, "This is awesome."
Sure.
I was like, I'm still mixing it up with the producers and getting to know, even though like that's not my job. And then about, I don't know, 2 years into this, they had sold this food travel series called At the Chef's Table. And Jerry, kind of true to his word, 'cause I was like, let's see what happens here. And if there's opportunities, we'll see where it goes. And that was it. And he kind of did a little, camera test with me and what have you. And then he's like, "We're going to give you the show, man." And then end up doing, that became #1 show on PBS. Then there's a show called Animal Attractions. And I love this business so much and love the storytelling process so much that, I wasn't just hosting. I was like coming in to host, and I was like, "Oh, cool. I'll sit in the writer's room and write." You know what I mean? I was like, "What are you guys doing over here?" Like, I'd annoy the editors all day because I'd sit in the edit bay, and they're like, "It's weird to have the host in here, Alex," And so, but I just was so green, so raw, and I had a really amazing man, Jerry Smith, once again, my like mentor to this day, because he still calls me, telling me what to do at almost 90. And it's all just, we have a fantastic relationship, and just, so yeah, it was like, it was the right opportunity at the right time, but a lot of hustle. I tell people all the time that opportunity wasn't like, "Oh, here, you want Amazing Race? Here you go, Alex." It wasn't like that. And I always
Sure.
need to like explain. I'm like, guys, I had to go grind it, and that's life, and but I love the grind, So anyway, so that's kind of like my journey through there. That's where I got my chops, is that Pine Ridge Film and Television. And then I came up with this show called Around the World for Free, which is like the first online interactive real-time daily show ever kind of produced. I had this thing in my mind and got CBS to get involved in that. And we launched that show to a lot of success. It sold to like 50 countries around the world. And then my partner, Burton Roberts, who's an EP on the college tour as well, he and I, like, we just were going to go make this show Around the World for Free. Like, could we? It was so out of the box. There's no Facebook. Facebook's barely coming into existence. YouTube's not really out there yet. So this online interactive show is really out of the box. Like, everyone told us no. But we eventually got CBS Early Show to bite on it a little bit to help us with this. And then it did really well. And that kind of that turned into Around the World Productions, where we filmed in 60 countries around the world for Travel Channel. All kinds of stuff happened out of that success. But it wasn't like Burton and I were young. We're in like maybe our late 20s at this point in time. It wasn't like we set off to be like, "Let's start a production company." It wasn't like that. And I tell people all the time, like, do it for the right. We came in going, we want to make this one thing. And we put everything we had into making this one thing, and it happened to work.
Sure.
And that led into what happened to Around the World Productions, which kind of gets me all the way here.
So the premise of Around the World for Free, from what I understand, how you can travel for free, is that basically it? Or is there more I'm missing
yeah.
there?
Okay, yeah. I would say less about how, more about how do we tell real stories in real places. It's kind of interesting the parallels between the college tour and this,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Obviously I've spent probably my whole entire career telling real stories, really, at the end of the day, like real human stories. No. So what happened? All right, do you want me to tell you do we have time?
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
cool. All right, I didn't know.
See, we got
Alex,
convocation coming up.
Okay, I didn't know. Like, Alex, wrap this thing
15
up. 15
minutes.
Okay. Let me rewind. I'm in, and I'll tell you how this show came to be, because I think this will understand the why and what we loved about it. Okay, because yes, it's an online interactive show. No money could touch my hands. Could I make it around the world? So
Sure.
yeah, that's a nice, fun stunt. But it's not about me being free or being cheap. It's about like human connection. So if I rewind probably a year or two from the launch of this whole thing, this gentleman, Jolt Luca, he runs distribution for us at the college tour, old friend. He was an editor at Pine Ridge. I was doing these like little surf documentaries, which is not, I wouldn't call them professional. It was like an old camcorder. Me and my buddies would just go surf down in like Central America. Anytime we had time off, a couple of my buddies would dove, bend, we'd jump in, we'd get on a plane. It was the best time to travel back then. There's no phones. So it was real adventure. We'd like drop into Panama and be like, where are the waves? And we'd just travel the coastline looking and like exploring for waves. And so then we started bringing camcorders with us. Okay. And then we made a DVD called Dropping In Panama of us like trying to find surf. Anyways, and I was like learning at a very fun place, because it was, how to get a project from A to Z and how to figure all that out. And I really enjoyed the process, right? Which I still do to this day, of like cracking something, building something. Okay, so we're doing this. We're doing this thing down in now we're doing the one in El Salvador. Pretty dangerous place. At the time, the tourism office gives us 2 armed guards at all times, because like, you guys are gonna get robbed and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, and so which I don't buy all that kind of stuff, but we have a lot of equipment. There's people's families. I can't have anything happen. So we have these 2 armed guards. All hell breaks loose while we're down in the country, right? It's like a hurricane hits it, volcano erupts, mudslides are everywhere. It's a disaster. So we're basically holed up in this in this beach town called La Libertad in El Salvador. And behind it is this like favela, this very like kind of shanty part of the, up through these mountains. So while we're riding out this hurricane and our security got taken from it, everyone who kind of knew what we were doing there is like, don't go up in those mountains. You will die. That's what it kept saying. It's like, well, you'll die, so dangerous. And Joel and I would just be hanging out, drinking beers, just playing cards, trying to ride this thing out. And, we would joke like, we're gonna die. Like, they're just gonna kill me for going up there. And both of us had traveled quite a bit to be like how kind of ludicrous that sounds. Sure. Really, when you think about it. I'm not telling people to go into dangerous areas here, but we were just like, so Joel said like, okay, when this hurricane passes, let's see if we can make it to the top of the mountain and back without dying. So that becomes our mission, okay? And then Joel last minute grabs a camera, okay? So he's like, I'm gonna film you, so at least we got footage if we die, okay? And so we're kind of half joking about this. And so I'm like, all right, cool. And I gotta be honest, I'm a little nervous because people told us we're gonna die, right?
There's something to that.
There's something to it. The locals are telling us we're gonna die, right? So anyway, so our mission is to get to the top back. So literally I just start walking up the hill. What do you think happens? People are like, kind of like, who are these gringos poking out? You know what I mean? Like, hey, amigo. Like, people start inviting us in. So now we're in these like homes. They're like 10 people living in a tiny little room. Like, the ovens were like a trash can cut in half was their oven. Like, we are getting like raw sense of like, this is humanity, right? And Jolt's like filming all this. And now they're like, next thing you know, they don't even have anything. And they're like pulling out rice and trying to cook us food. And it just becomes this magical moment of us like hanging out in this place that like, just a few days ago, everyone's like, you're going to die. Sure. The complete opposite happens. Like hospitality at the highest level. And it was just, you can't have that experience without it like almost changing you. So the whole time we're walking down from this moment, like, I was unbelievable. Like no one's even going to believe our story. So even though when we came back from that trip, we're going to edit this, this little surf doc, we can't stop talking about this moment of time. Right. And how awesome it was, right. Mm-hmm. Of just being with real people. And that really is the seed to Around the World for Free. Obviously, from that one experience to, let's do it online. Let's do it every day. The audience can guide the journey. Like building a website back then, which now you can do on a Facebook page, was complex, where people could write in and say, hey, you can stay with me here. And like having this interactive experience with the audience was like very state of the art back then. But that was it. That one experience kind of drove it. And drove what, it was a long journey from that moment to that thing being on air with CBS. But and a lot of people telling us, no, it could never work, and it's too out of the box, and blah, blah, blah. And then, we did it, and it was so pretty big hit. Then WGN America came in like, hey, can we take the online version and turn it into an episode, 11 episodes on television? And then Reveille came in like, hey, can we take the international rights? It got sold to like almost 100 countries around the world. So like this one idea that everyone told us was not really going to work turned into this, pretty decent hit that kind of launches the next part of my life. So that's how it all, yeah. So it's like imagine like, so the premise was, going back to your original question, I just kind of went on a long tangent to explain how we got here. But the premise was this, like, how do you tell? Because as someone who's done travel shows, it's like, cool, you stay in a hotel, you show up and do your thing, you know what I mean? And then you go back to your hotel, and then we go over here, and it's all set up, and like this and the other. And, I think Anthony Bourdain did a good job of it, but like, there's nothing like Around the World for Free from an immersion into living with people. That's why I had no money. The whole idea was to strip me down to nothing in order to, I have to live with the locals. So we get into those homes, we see those people. And so imagine that show if you were watching it in real time or participating. It's like, imagine we were living with monks. We were living with this. We were in like chicken coop back of cars, like driving through Colombia. Like you're just living with the locals every step of the way, which is, I still don't know any other travel show. As someone who loves travel shows, I still haven't seen anything like it before. Sure. And when CBS came back in and kind of bought the property, and we did 2 more seasons with it, and it was awesome. Yeah.
So some of those experiences, obviously, you've traveled around the world. Now, right, you're hitting college campuses. You're in Valley City this week, visiting Valley City State University. We may be pale to some of those places you've been, but what has struck you so far about Valley City and VCSU, and what makes what's our story?
Yeah, what is your story? Well, I mean, you have a great history, with teaching programs, and there's a lot, and I think you're going to see it in the episode because we just talk about the hands-on experience throughout all the different like curriculums. But right. I'll tell you what I was hearing even before I got here, because obviously there's a lot that goes into the college tour before I'm stepping foot on campus. How nice y'all are, and what a great community it all is, and like, like really, like I'm not just saying that because the camera's rolling. Like everyone's like, oh my gosh, you're gonna love these guys, Alex, and that's from like Joan to Rachel to everyone who's kind of touching this to us getting here. But I would say something I'd heard about this prior to getting here, but not to the extent of driving up this morning. This is a beautiful campus.
It is. Yeah.
It really is a beautiful campus. Like, and do you know the president said the same thing you said about the trees?
Oh yeah,
it was kind of.
We took a lot of pride in those trees.
I know
our front lawn is great.
But the president said the same thing in a good way. So we're just the story here is like, I know a windstorm came through and locked down. It's such a beautiful campus, and there's these trees, but also where I'm doing the stand up had this beautiful shot right going up the hill, and you had mentioned, you go, oh man, like we wouldn't have had this shot if the trees weren't there. So the president says the exact same thing to me. He goes, yeah, man, these trees came down. I'm like, oh, I know, I'm so sorry. And I go, but you should have saw. He goes, I know, but it kind of opens the place up a little bit.
Yeah.
It really does. Yeah. And so you can't not arrive to it's like such a beautiful front porch. You kind of, and so anyway, and then, and I cannot believe no one told me this. But what do you call it? What do you call this thing that's going on tonight?
Oh, Summer Vikes on
Summer
Central.
Summer Vikes on Main, right?
Yeah, on Central.
On Central. Summer Vikes on Central. I got to get that in my head. When the president was telling me that offhand, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, I was supposed to be getting back to Fargo tonight. I'm staying for that thing. And like, I think that is the warmth that I think our crew feels. And I think the audience is going to feel from your students is all, and as you were telling me about this experience you have tonight, that it really is, it's a community.
Yeah.
And we mentioned a lot in the episode of how people feel like they're home when they're here. And that's what you want them to feel as home. So.
Yeah, it's a great way, cool. Summer Vikes for community campus to connect across that historic symbolic walk bridge and that walk downtown. So very cool. But Alex, we got to get over to Convocation, but appreciate taking the time. And obviously we're grateful to have the college tour campus this week.
That's so great. And I would tell everyone, it's like, this isn't the college tour is not this is not just a one-off project. This is something we are still best friends with schools from season 1. And this is to us, this is a relationship we have, even though, yes, there's a lot of work that goes in to get this episode and get it on air and get everyone, everything situated. But this relationship will develop, and we're excited to be a small piece in helping tell your all story.
Alex Boylan, host, College Tour, streaming on Amazon Prime. Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.